In this PowerPoint, we're going to just go over certain slides that has some information that I want to share with you. The rest of it is pretty much to the point, so it shouldn't be too long. Please make sure that you go over these terms and have an idea of what they mean. You can either use Google, yes, and a dictionary, if you remember what those are. So go, or your textbook, and go through some of these terms so you're familiar with them. When it comes to collective action, I have a definition here and a few examples. One example I can think of collection action is when something may be patient care, such as organizing a group of providers to ensure that there's a seamless transition. Another example is something that focuses on the workplace, such as having a group sign a petition to support a manager. Another may be committing to work together to cover a colleague's illness. Collective action can also mean organizing for the purposes of collective bargaining. Although the purpose may differ, the desire and the skill of working together are comparable across different situations. So in other words, getting together and for a common good, for a common cause. This slide gives you some examples about main purposes of collective participation, and you want to look and see pretty much who all is going to do what is the reasoning behind it, and then the responsibilities that are going to be allocated. Here's nursing governance, and we talked about this when we talked about shared governance, and this is where the nursing actually is in control, and they do help to guide and come up with a system for administration to look at the profession of nursing and our practice, but also provide some types of policies that are in place to oversee the profession. Here's a list of some of the focuses of that. And although people work collectively for many reasons, we're going to actually going to focus on the common ones found in employment settings where nurses are employed. So these are all listed here on these bullets, and so the next several slides we're going to go over these. With the shared governments, there is a demand, or this allows for a demand for people to participate in decision making rather than providing just participation and sitting on the sidelines. So it actually will help to empower nurses. In context, when the idea of shared governance is instituted in an organization, it's going to require that all or everyone change the way decisions are being made. Although direct care nurses may have to assume new roles in providing input for decisions, those nurses who previously made the decisions also have to change. They must now deliberately seek the input of staff, so both the manager and the follower roles are going to change, and they're going to be working together. When shared governance is first implemented, it's not uncommon to find that one or more committees are charged with specific tasks. As the organization gains experience, these committee structures are going to spread throughout the organization. Getting to better decisions often is one of the main outcomes they're reaching for, because more diversity is included up front, more ideas are tested before a decision is actually being made. Because people, such as you and I, are involved in the decision, it's likely that more of us will implement the new policy or the practice. After all, someone who works with a given issue on a daily basis may be able to say why other strategies won't work and why one or more strategies would be more effective. It's kind of when I talked about the people upstairs in the big offices. They want to implement something, but they're not where we are, and so they think it'll work, it looks good on paper, but in actuality, does it work? Again, because the support of speaking up and offering ideas is evolving, more people risk participating and offering some ideas. Those ideas may be about issues presented from management, but they eventually will evolve into more self-generated ideas, things that they think of on their own. When it comes to responsibility, in the past, nurses were thought to exist to follow the physician's orders and have very little independent thought or actions. Today, we're more high-performing organizations where we're characterized by the control of nursing practice by the nurses. There's structure, credentialing, and certifications that are involved. Here's a definition of autonomy, which we've talked about many times. And again, we see better outcomes, better patient satisfactions because the nurses can think on their own. The nurses are also more satisfied, and we're more productive, and we get more creative, and we become more independent decision makers. When you think about accountability, this is going to focus on achievement of a specific outcome. And so you're going to have, everything set up. And so you're going to have ideas in place. People are put into certain roles. We have certain goals to meet. And we're also going to set everything up in advance. And we're going to have a process that we go through to reach our final goal. And everyone is accountable for a specific role that they have. Here they list some traits of a good follower. When you think about workplace advocacy, this describes what we do when we advocate for ourselves and our peers. This process can be supported when management and staff agree on key concepts. It can also be contentious with when the basic concepts are not agreed to. For example, if both a management and staff agree that a career ladder is needed, both are going to work towards this end, and perhaps only minor disagreements may occur over specific dollar amounts or how the benefit is accessed. If, however, the groups don't agree, the focus of the conversation is more on the core concept. Although some mutual understanding may be reached, a discord may be noted within the setting because members on one side or the other think something was forced on them. When everyone is alert to workplace issues such as handling patients, workplaces that are free from abusive behaviors, provide safe transportation to and from parking facilities, and offer clear support for professionals speaking up for their patients, workplace advocacy can be a much more positive experience. And these are some activities that happen within the practice setting. When we have culture and subculture, most of this is right here on this slide, so please kind of just look over it. When you have a subculture, we can also look at macro and micro cultures within the main culture, which is the facility, and then the smaller organizations underneath. Here's some characteristics of empowerment. And this is a continuing issue in many workforces and workplaces. As you read through these, some of these may be things that you've been either been around or familiar with. And I'll let you continue reading. Collective bargaining, this is a formal process where employees select a bargaining agent to represent their interest. It can begin with the election of a union or a group to represent employees in a class, such as registered nurses, or groups up to and including all non-management employees within an organization. And this continues on from the previous slide. Here are a couple more terms that you will need to know. As the role of advanced practice starts and as it continues to evolve, nurses bring in professional knowledge and expertise to all areas of the healthcare field. At will, means that you're going to work willingly for an employer. Union is saying you need to provide us better security with our jobs and better wages, benefits, and so forth. And this is usually a very large, as they said here, a due process that happens with some facilities who their workers become unionized. Whistleblower protection. I have a form I'm going to be posting to you about whistleblowers, and so please look at that handout when I have that posted for you. Here's a slide that gives suggested criteria for selecting a bargaining unit. Then sometimes there is some type of dispute with what's going on in the company. So we have what we call alternative dispute resolution. And this is taking on a whole new meaning in healthcare because it's a formalized process that's going to occur in situations where no collective bargaining agreements even exist. There's 4 common strategies that are used within this construct. One of those is negotiation, may be accomplished between 2 parties in a dispute. Someone may help define clear ground rules and expect an outcome, but the way in which the individuals reach agreement is theirs to decide. In other situations, when a dispute becomes evident, someone may say, I suspect that you will work this out. Let me know within so many hours what your decision is. When you have a facilitation, this involves the presence of a third party, such as a facilitator. This person may simply reflect what is being said, and then they raise questions like does that fit with what you think? What could you live with in this situation? How does that strike you? This person often starts the conversation and kind of sets the ground rules for how the process is going to proceed. When you have mediation and a mediator, this is an informal process in which a neutral third party assists the opposing parties to reach a voluntary negotiated resolution of a charge of some type of discrimination. It gives the parties the opportunity to discuss the issues raised in the charge, clear up any misunderstandings, and determine the underlying interest or concerns, find areas of agreement, and finally incorporate those ideas of agreements into some type of resolution. A mediator does not resolve the charge or impose a decision on the parties. Instead, the mediator is going to help the parties to agree on a mutually acceptable resolution. It is a confidential process limited to only those individuals involved. Arbitration. This is a formal process where the person serving as the arbitrator makes the decision. The decision is binding on both parties because it is used as the last stage in the alternative dispute resolution process. So this usually means that clear distinctions in positions have prevented any conclusion about how to move forward, and as a result, more difficult emotions may be associated with this process. So some things just to point out. There is greater diversity in nursing than there ever has been before. Collective action must exist in environments where there is high quality, cost-effective care in providing this care by an engaged and professional workforce. Whether a nursing workforce is unionized or not should not preclude nurses from practicing to their full extent of their education and their licensure. New relationships and continued evolution of public policy may take place for there to be continued progress.